Hello, everyone. Welcome to Homeland Security Today's continuing recognition of Human Trafficking Awareness Month. My name is Christina Tanaschuk. I'm the executive editor of Homeland Security Today, and I have the pleasure of welcoming Derek Benner, who's the managing director, Thomson Reuters Special Services, the federal law enforcement and commercial team, who is going to talk to us a little bit about some of their research and what they're finding about trafficking networks and how they exploit financial service industries. So with that, I want to just welcome you, Derek. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today.
Yeah, thank you, Christina. It's great, great to be here, and thank you for arranging this event around Trafficking Month. Appreciate it.
Yes, of course. And we were very excited to honor Thomson Reuters and a team out of Houston for their work on developing resources for human trafficking. So that's how I got to find you. So really excited about that. And you came from Homeland Security Investigations at ICE, is that correct?
I did. I've been with Thomson Reuters Special Services for 3 years now. 3 years last week. I retired from HSI as their director here in DC, and so I get to still support federal law enforcement and the anti-trafficking community, not as directly as I was there, but now on the other side, with some other capabilities that I think are helpful for law enforcement.
It's so great to have you still fighting the good fight. And the timing couldn't be better for some of the work you're doing. I think many have seen that Homeland Security Today has been releasing our three-part terrorism forecast for 2024. And what we do is we go out to experts and we ask, well, they're all kind of our experts, like our editorial board members and friends of HS Today. We ask what the Homeland community should be looking at. And we just found that some of your work finding that financial institutions relating to human trafficking, the suspicious activity reports, you're predicting that they're going to increase by 40% this year. So we wanted to talk to you about that. So tell us more about the research and how you came to that number.
Yeah, so Thomson Reuters Institute really focuses on human rights crime, across the spectrum, and particularly where people are being exploited for profit. So that's, human trafficking, sex trafficking, labor trafficking. And so they've done some deep research on SAR filings from year over year on different categories. And what they distilled out of the data was a pretty remarkable increase in special SAR reports filed by financial institutions under the category of human trafficking.
So tell us more about that process and kind of how, if you can, I mean, I don't want to give away any trade craft, but how the financial institutions kind of find that. And we know from the FBI's work with gangs and with the mafia and all, it's always follow the money. So tell us more a little bit about how that's happening.
So the remarkable thing is it really takes, and I really want to focus on the number too, because it really takes a lot to move the needle in this category in terms of like SAR filings. And so we're looking at almost 40% increase in human trafficking filings from 22 to 23, a very similar number from 21 to 22, but really over the last 3 years, it's almost over 150% increase in filings coming in from financial institutions. And that's huge because we're talking about, SAR filings from all different types of activity that the banks are responsible for from a compliance standpoint. And so that's a really big number. And I think it's really good news in an area that typically doesn't have a lot. So that's really important, I think, to for people to recognize is how this issue has come to the forefront and people are taking action.
And how did it come to your attention?
So at Thomson Reuters Special Services, where I work, um, we are in the space of helping law enforcement with a lot of issues, and particularly around data technology, with an emphasis on data science capabilities. So how do we deal with big data to solve mission problems and help the operators have more time on target, making good decisions about, where do we place our resources to have the biggest impact? And one of those areas for us has been in human trafficking. Um, I one of the the I think the biggest impact that we've had is helping law enforcement really shape the way that they think about certain parts of trafficking, in particular the illicit massage business industry, which is under the category of sex trafficking. Um, Looking at those organizations, I think law enforcement, me included, had looked at those as kind of like mom and pop operations operating in various strip malls in different locations across the country. Um, and what some really talented data scientists and analysts figured out, like, hey guys, these aren't just like one-off little operations. These are actually globally connected transnational criminal organizations that have very sophisticated money laundering capabilities. They recruit victims from outside of the country. There's a whole ecosystem of financial transactions that happen. And it became much more complicated from an investigative standpoint. But now that law enforcement is looking at these as large scale, sophisticated organizations, they can apply the appropriate investigative resources and techniques to actually dismantle not only the organizations themselves, but their financial structure and go after the illicit proceeds and put them out of business.
So the role of the financial institution is alerting you to some of it, or just providing the data, or what exactly is their role in all of it?
So I'm going to start off this. I've said this while I was on the job, and I'll continue to say it when I'm out here. Financial institutions are among the best partners for law enforcement. We work together across many different investigative areas. Of course, traditional drug smuggling and money laundering and all kinds of fraud and white collar crime. They are very eager to partner with law enforcement, obviously working under the current regime of compliance and policies that Treasury has set out through those information exchanges. So I think financial institutions are involved in almost the entire ecosystem. They could be involved on the front end of an investigation because somebody at that institution noticed something that required them to file a suspicious activity report indicative of potentially trafficking. So that may be the start in many cases of an investigation. Or further on in an investigation, their investigators learn that a particular institution may have data, transactional data that seems to support their investigative hypothesis into a particular organization. And then that dialogue just keeps going, back and forth between investigators and the AML and the compliance professionals in financial institutions who are obviously like, they want to help. Again, under the regime of compliance and the laws that are structured to make sure that it's done properly.
And so do you have some insights working with the financial institutions and certainly your friends back at HSI on why these numbers are blowing up? I mean, I went through the FBI Citizens Academy years ago and it was so insightful, but I think the most impactful session that I went through was literally the one on child pornography and trafficking. Because they talked about, and the average person doesn't really think about that pornography used to be a photo. And so they had, photo shoots set up, and they had like physical places that they could find, and then they could destroy all the photos. But with the internet, it has just exploded. And the ability to make money off of that thing is huge. And so those numbers have really increased. What are your insights about why these numbers are increasing the way they are?
So it's really it's many things, or the confluence of several events that I think led to this massive increase in filings and awareness. I would say number one, a lot of the non-governmental organizations out there about 5, 6 years ago really started to engage with law enforcement in a very helpful way by helping us achieve more of a victim-centered approach around what we were doing in human trafficking. And so pretty soon, law enforcement's actually hiring and training victim services coordinators, special forensic interviewers that do special interviews that are not directed at like obtaining law enforcement information, but really about how do we provide care and services around the victims. And so that started this path of discussion with all of the appropriate parties involved, which include always the financial institutions, on their valuable and rich kind of data that can help facilitate some of these investigations, following the money, dismantling the organization. So that really started like this groundswell of interest in fighting human trafficking as a community. I don't know if you're familiar with ACAMS, um, uh, the Association of Certified Anti-Money Laundering Specialists. It's an organization. They exist in it. They have chapters in every city, and they do national events every year in multiple cities. This is really where law enforcement and financial institutions come together to discuss like these trends and issues. And the financial institutions like took immediate interest and said, yeah, we can help. Like, tell us what to look for. We need law enforcement to tell us like what looks suspicious or what should we be aware of. And from then, it's just been a kind of a steamrolling effect of more interaction, more education, more awareness. My old agency, so we would take data from real investigations going on around the country in the trafficking space, distill that information, kind of clean it up, and then provide it back to financial institutions in the form of typologies and red flag indicators of potential human trafficking activity. So that's really valuable for financial institutions who are eager to help to get information from HSI, FBI, Department of State, state and local agencies that are doing these cases, to help them really narrow down and focus their efforts when they do their work.
Excellent. So you're able to just collect more of that data. And is Thomson Reuters in particular, are you using any AI, or are you seeing AI being used on these data sets to help you find trends?
I think it's a little early I think, everyone's kind of putting their toe in the water and trying to understand, how this could work. I think the areas where, when you're dealing with cybercrime and large amounts of data. So if we're looking into child exploitation, yes, like, identifying, CSAM images and, particularly with the dark web. I think that's where we'll see, some more interest in exploring AI. I know that Thomson Reuters, our parent company, is investing heavily in that research, and I think everyone's moving, carefully to, in that direction. I'm not sure yet on the side of like analyzing financial transactions, what that would look like, but it's definitely going to be an interesting capability that could help out a lot.
Absolutely. Glad to hear that. Also, you said something very, very important. And just from my experience working, trying to bridge public-private sector stuff, you said that the NGOs around human trafficking started really partnering with law enforcement in a helpful way. Can you speak more to how important those partnerships are and how people can do a better job of working together so that we're kind of rowing all in the same direction?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's so many, like even too many to name that are in this space, and they all bring a different perspective. Some of them are focused on how do we bring law enforcement and financial services together to speak the same language, combating human crime. There's an organization called the Noble that I've been part of, very good at that, like focusing on, fighting human crime through financial sector and eliminating access to our country's legitimate financial system to criminals, right? And then there's others that are focused on victim services, providing wraparound services for recovering victims, providing an opportunity for them to engage with law enforcement where appropriate. Um, uh, Academic and kind of research issues that law enforcement doesn't always have time to do, but the NGOs invest a lot of time and energy in understanding how these organizations that are exploiting people are actually changing and evolving on a global basis. And I think law enforcement, we need to hear that sometimes, pick our heads up from kind of the tyranny of the urgent and learn from our partners. So the other thing is informing the public. NGOs do a great job of providing information that, like, the interesting thing about human trafficking is the traffickers are engaged in commerce in our country, right? They're traveling, they're using financial institutions, they're going to they exploit the hospitality industry. They're at our airports and at our train stations because they move victims from city to city. They're conducting business in massage parlors and nail salons. I mean, there's a huge opportunity for the public to be a partner in seeing things and knowing where to report them to law enforcement. And I know if you travel a lot, and if you through the airports, the Blue campaign has done a tremendous job over the last few years of digital media in the airports, right? It's no longer just a poster. It's actually like digital campaigns that, see something, say something, like what are the signs of potentially someone under duress being transported through an airport, and who do you call? I mean, that's widely crazy invaluable information to have all the people that are moving through our transportation system aware of what's going on. So that's really nice to see. And a lot of the NGO partnerships that the Blue campaign maintains kind of informs their campaign awareness program. So that's very important.
They have done a tremendous job back of the bathroom stalls all across the airports. Absolutely. I take pictures every time I see the signs, and there are often signs in the women's restrooms, which is really, really a good idea so that people don't see them. Well, people who shouldn't see them don't see them. So that's
Right.
amazing. Yeah, that's really appreciate your comments, and certainly your service. Thank you for serving in HSI for a long period of time. We appreciate all of that. Thomson Reuters is doing some great work around this. We appreciate it, and certainly keep in touch with us. I think Homeland Security Today recognizes Trafficking Month every year. Sometimes with the program, but this year we did a tremendous number of interviews so that the public could understand what's going on, who is helping, how are they helping, and frankly, how they can get involved. So is there anything the public can do to help?
Yeah, I was just, you read my mind. I was just about to say, so if you're curious about some of the things that you and I have been talking about today, I would encourage people to reach out to your organization, because you guys have all these resources of like who's doing what, and you're talking to a lot of people. Research the Blue campaign, which is a DHS effort. There's a lot of great material there. These people will come out and train your organization or your company if you're concerned about your frontline employees and making them aware of what the signs are. And I would also look at the Center to Combat Human Trafficking, which is a DHS operational trafficking, anti-trafficking organization that's involved in not only bringing together the public and NGOs and financial institutions, but also multiple law enforcement agencies working together across the country to do training and awareness for industries out there. I think about what if we could train every code enforcement officer in every town and city across the country of what to look for when they're out there in businesses, potentially looking for signs of trafficking. I think that would be powerful. So I
Let's do
think my
it.
message is get out there, get involved. This is a problem that we can all bring something to the fight on, not just law enforcement, but everybody. Be nimble, keep being creative, and we got to keep our foot on the gas because human crime is for profit is just horrible, and we need to do everything we can to bring it to an end.
Totally agreed. And as always, we offer HS Today as an aid to whatever you're looking to do. We already work with a tremendous number of NGOs in human trafficking on providing content for this month and certainly writing some of the best practices so we can share them through HS Today. We want to be that collaboration hub between law enforcement, the private sector, and frankly, the public, so that we can all be working against some of these terrible things that are happening. So I want to thank you so much for your time, Derek. You've been amazing. Thank you again to Thomson Reuters for doing some of this work, and congratulations on the Homeland Security Today Award. City of Houston and Thomson Reuters did win that award at our award ceremony in December for creating those toolkits for municipalities. So I can't thank you enough for joining us today, and I hope you will stay in touch, and we'll talk again in January of 2025 so you can tell me how you solved everything.
All right, we're on it. We'll take the challenge. It was great to meet you, Christina. Thank you for the opportunity to chat with you today. Appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you.